So we'll continue on down the table. So we have Jodie Emery now.
I felt really bad about answering my phone, but it was Mark calling, forgetting that I'm doing this. And I just, I'm at the event. He's like, oh right, sorry. So, but also another note about Mark Emery, my husband, we actually had our wedding reception here. That was in 2006. So maybe we'll have another welcome home party here and it'll get cloudy again. But I'm Jodie Emery. If you don't know who I am, I'm a marijuana activist. My husband is Mark Emery. He is the marijuana activist, the Prince of Pot, who started in Vancouver 20 years ago selling books, magazines, bongs, and everything else that Dana mentioned. And we've seen great leaps and bounds in the progress since he set out long ago. And I only showed up 10 years ago, and a lot of change has happened. A lot of good, a lot of bad. Of course, a big bad would be Mark being extradited in 2010 in May by the Conservative government. A 5-year plea deal instead of 30 years to life in prison. And when it comes to marijuana legalization, there are many experts who speak so eloquently. I mean, Dana, God, every time I hear him, I know the guy so well, but every time I hear him go off, I get so inspired. I'm like, yes, hemp, the future, the medicine. It's just, there's so many people doing so much great work, and they can speak to you about their experience in their campaigning. But I think what I can bring to the table is about a different cost, not a financial cost in terms of the billions of tax dollars and policing and courts and prisons, but in the human cost, in the cost to society, in the cost to communities as a whole when marijuana prohibition is enforced. And when people go to prison, there are some people who should go to prison, and they hurt people, and they break laws that cause a lot of harm, and they should be behind bars. But when people go to prison, sometimes it's easy to forget that they have families. You know, even the murderer and the rapist, they have a mother and a father. They might have kids. They might have someone who loves them and can't believe they did that crime. But there's someone who is hurting when someone is put behind bars. So when you look at victims like my husband and marijuana prisoners, and there are so many millions of people who have been behind bars and in handcuffs for pot, these people have not hurt anyone else. And it's bad enough to take an innocent, peaceful, pot-using person and to arrest them and put them behind bars and make them suffer. I mean, even if you think they're an evil sinner and they shouldn't use that substance and you should suffer for making such a terrible decision, that's cruelty, and it's cruel to make people suffer that way. But, you know, what about the families? What about the loved ones? I've been down to the US prison system nearly 80 times now, over since 2010. And one of the hardest things for me, it's not really for me, it's not that hard for me and Mark, you know, at least we know we'll see each other again. He is endlessly optimistic, so it's hard to be sad. It's very hard for us to feel bad about our situation when I'm looking at the mother with her 3 young children, you know, girls who are just 6 years old, and they're watching their daddy line up to go, and they say, bye, daddy, bye. And he's saying bye, and he's a tough guy, and he's trying so hard not to cry. And the mother is trying so hard not to cry, and she can't even look at him because it hurts so much to stand there and watch them leave that the mothers have to turn their backs to their husbands so that they don't cry. And their children trying so hard to be brave, little girls trying so hard not to cry when they say goodbye to their daddy. So whether their father is in there because he assaulted someone and murdered them, or whether he's in there because he grew pot and trafficked it, you know, for me, the human suffering is just unbearable. And that's what makes me cry. That's when I cry in prison, is when I see the other people suffering. And so when we're talking about marijuana legalization and prohibition, I could go on and on about how amazing cannabis is, how it saves lives, how it's proven to reduce cancer cells, how hemp can get rid of oil, how there's so much this plant can do for us, even in just making you feel happy in a world that's often so miserable. You know, pot has so much to offer, but prohibition destroys so much. And prohibition costs us in ways we can't even count. So my husband has been away and I've had to earn our income, so you know, it's hard doing that, 2 people for one, and there's a lot of single people out there working hard while their loved ones are in prison. and their kids have to grow up with shame because when you go to school they tell you the cops are the good guys and the prisoners are the bad guys, and so these little kids grow up being told that their daddy is a bad guy, and that is destroying our community. That is destroying society. When you have to make families feel shame about their loved ones, or to have to hide away that they have a loved one who broke the law and went to prison. For these mothers who don't like pot, but their kid got busted and went to prison, and the mother might say, I wish they never got into pot. I wish they had never done that. It's cost us so much with lawyers. It's costing us to go see him in prison. It's cost him his scholarship. It cost him his future. He can't travel. He can't get a job anymore. It's cost us so much, all because of pot. It's not because of pot. It's because of prohibition. Prohibition is causing that harm. Prohibition is costing society. And when young people use pot, whether you like it or not, and they get arrested or they get a criminal record, that is going to affect them for the rest of their lives. That means they could have been the next great business developer. They could have created some great technology, but they weren't able to because they lost their scholarship because they had some pot. I remember running for office with the BC Greens in 2009 and getting a call from a student saying, I just got arrested for pot and I am in my last year of government studies. What am I going to do? I had no answer for him, but I do now. I have an answer. It's called join the Liberal Party and support the Liberal Party, because even if they're going to just legalize marijuana, even if they legalize marijuana just to say, let's stop giving money to gangs or let's save billions in tax dollars, for me it's really important that we remember that legalization will protect our communities in a much bigger way than you can ever imagine. And when people are put behind bars, they don't work, they cost taxpayers money, and they put a lot of stress and a lot of strain on families and societies and communities as a whole. And me, I've been lucky, so lucky to have so much support. So Mark and I, we got through this, no problem. I mean, I can't believe it's already under 3 months his sentence is over, and he's home this summer. As I feel about that, I know that today and yesterday and tomorrow and for years to come, there are wives losing their husbands, there are husbands losing their wives, more women going to prison than ever before under this Harper government, and families are still being destroyed, and that's a cost you cannot put a dollar figure to. But when we're talking about the savings that can be done with legalization in terms of taking money away from organized crime and saving billions of dollars in wasted law enforcement, let's also talk about the hundreds of thousands of people who have spent time behind bars at a cost to taxpayers, but also at a cost to society and to our moral fiber, really, because children are having their lives destroyed, not by pot, but by pot prohibition, and that should be reason enough to legalize it. Thanks a lot for listening.
I think that's a perspective that doesn't get talked about as much as some of the other perspectives. With the dollar figures and everything, it's pretty easy to see the benefits there. But the human cost and the human perspective is something that kind of gets left off the bottom of the article often. So thanks for sharing.